You may begin.
So today's my day to do a book talk, and I want to talk to you about the Alex Rider series. I've actually read several books in this series, but this is one of my favorite ones. It's called Stormbreaker by Anthony Horowitz. Alex Rider is actually the main character, and it's in the kind of adventure mystery genre. It has 234 pages. It was actually a quick read because it's very full of action. He's a 14-year-old boy, like I said. His name is Alex Rider, and unfortunately his parents are dead, and he's living with his uncle. But shortly into this book, something happens to his uncle, and then he lives with the house sitter kind of lady. Her weird name, her name is Jack Starbright, and she's 22. So he goes around London, and he's trying to figure out, like, how did his parents die, and why did his uncle die, and there's a lot of mystery, but there's a lot of adventure, and he's actually recruited to be a spy, and they think that he would be a great spy because who would expect that a 14-year-old would be a spy? And his age kind of allows him to go places that other people wouldn't suspect, that why is he there and what is he doing? All of the chapters are full of action, but I want to read this one to you, and maybe you'll understand why I like this book. So my passage goes, "He pulled on the dry suit. It was cold, clammy, and uncomfortable. He zipped it up at the front. He hadn't taken off his street clothes, and that had perhaps helped. The suit was loose in places, but he was sure it would keep the water out. Moving quickly now, afraid that if he hesitated he would change his mind, Alex approached the water's edge. He reached out and took the rope in one hand. It would be faster swimming with both hands, but he didn't dare risk it. Getting lost in the underwater tunnel would be as bad as running out of air. The result would be exactly the same. He had to keep hold of the rope to allow it to guide him through. Alex took several deep breaths, hyperventilating and oxygenating his blood, knowing it would give him a few precious extra seconds. Then he plunged in. The cold was ferocious, a hammer blow that nearly forced the air out of his lungs. The water pounded at his head, swirling around his nose and eyes. His fingers were instantly numb. His whole system felt the shock, but the dry suit was holding, sealing in at least some of his body warmth. Clinging to the rope, he kicked forward. He had committed himself. There could be no going back. Pull, kick, pull, kick. Alex had been underwater for less than a minute, but already his lungs were feeling the strain. The roof of the tunnel was scraping his shoulders, and he was afraid that it would tear through the dry suit and gouge into his skin as well. But he didn't dare dive slower. He pulled himself forward along the rope, scratching the skin off the palms of his hands. He had been swimming for almost 2 minutes, but it felt closer to 10. He had opened his mouth and breathed, even if it was water and not air. That rushed into his throat. A silent scream exploded inside him. Pull, kick, and then the rope tilted upward, and he felt his shoulders come clear, and his mouth was wrenched open in the great gasp as he breathed air and knew that he had just made it. It was only now that he realized it might lead only to a grave. So, this is about halfway through in Alex's adventures of the book The Stormbreaker, which is the first in the series of the Alex. If you would like to find out about this young man who often comes back to school with bruises, and his teachers ask questions where he was and why he wasn't there, you might want to read and find out how often Alex ends up in the hospital. So if you're looking for adventure, this is a great book.